Yeah, so as I said, my name is Norman. Typically, I give this course together with my colleague, Corinna Breitinger. She has a very good reason not to be here. She just delivered a very beautiful baby girl a couple of weeks ago, so today it's only me. What we are going to cover today? Well, we want to give you a deep dive into how to search, cite, and manage your literature. That's the part that some of you have heard a little bit about it. The cool thing is, as I said, we have, for all these parts, we also have actual exercises, so to get your hands on working on it. There will be breaks, yes. The bigger ones will probably be after the reference management workshop, so your first exercise, and the reading strategy exercise. And then after the lunch break, which will be like an hour, let's see how we are in time, maybe even an hour and a half, we will get into the really cool part, because it also concerns your thesis as much as you can plan it already, by really preparing your research questions, your research proposal, if you haven't done so yet, and maybe even your abstract to a certain degree. Of course, that's not entirely possible, because typically you write that last, which makes sense, but at least we want to give you an idea of what belongs to an abstract, and maybe you can draft some of the components already. Okay, so let's dive in. Finding academic literature. I think most of you were master students, yeah, so I guess you all have written a bachelor thesis before. A thesis, like most academic works, requires a related work section, typically, a state-of-the-art overview, and you need literature, right? So you need to get an overview of the state-of-the-art in the field. What we briefly want to cover here in this section of the course is how to find relevant literature. Maybe what not everybody of you is familiar with, how to efficiently read a lot of papers, because research is growing, and also the scientific output is growing constantly, and you typically encounter in most research fields quite a lot of papers that you sort of need to at least have on your radar, let's say. I do not say read in all detail, but have on your radar and understood, and at least decide whether they're relevant or not. We will look at this, and then we will quickly, I will quickly propose a quite easy to remember, in my opinion, way to how to cite your sources, and then we will actually come into a proposal, a suggestion from our side on how to manage, like really down to the tool level, your literature. Of course, the goal is, in the end, to write, most of you, a master thesis. One person, I think, was a bachelor thesis, yeah. And yeah, even for these theses, the goal is that you make a contribution. It can be a small contribution, but a contribution to the body of scientific knowledge, to the knowledge in general. Okay? So, how did you search your literature, let's say, for your bachelor thesis? What tools can you recommend? Or what tools did I recommend to you in the seminar? Yeah. Asking the supervisor. That's good. As a supervisor myself, I would ask you not to make this your primary strategy, because it kind of overloads us. But yeah, it's a possibility. You can use Google Scholar. Okay. What do you like about Google Scholar? I really like that you can see the citations directly, I think. Very good. Why do you think this is valuable? Because you need to use your citations in your thesis. Like, you need to reference. You mean, okay, then we understood different things for citations, but you mean like you can export this? You can see both. You can see you can export the citation directly, but you can also see how many times the paper was cited. Yeah. You can see both. Okay, Google Scholar. Yeah, I think it should even be the first one. Yeah, it is the first one. Other suggestions? No. Anybody heard of Semantic Scholar? Yeah. You heard about it? What do you know about it? It exists. Okay, that's a good start. It is well, similar in terms, of course, in terms of the general page structure and the approach to Google Scholar. It's not a commercial enterprise. Last time I checked, it's sort of a non-profit thing. What I like about Semantic Scholar is as Google Scholar, they do crawling of the web to find publications. They offer some more tools in terms of filtering and getting additional information, like how many times, not just how many times a paper was cited, but also, in which certain fields, what is the most cited paper, and so on. So additional analytics, I would say, sometimes quite nice for filtering. And I think also their recommendation is better than Google Scholars because you can tailor it. So you have more options of tailoring it to your research interests to get the papers recommended that might be relevant to you. So if you don't know it, it's worth taking a look. So here have the pros and cons. The big advantage of both of them is, of course, they are free. That's good. It's always good. They have a very large coverage because they have this approach of just going out there to the web and crawling and taking whatever they find and what looks to them like a paper, they include in their collection. The downside of this approach is the data quality, of course, is a bit lower because you're all computer scientists or data scientists. If you do something automatically, it doesn't always result in the best data quality. That's, of course, exactly the case here. These teams actually behind these sort of services are not that big. So I don't know the exact number right now, but a couple of years ago, we actually met with a team of Google Scholar, and back then there were 5 people. Yeah, so it's a department at Google of 5 people. So just because the service is very popular and very big and the collection is very big doesn't mean that they have a lot of manpower behind it. So the automatic processing is very important to them, of course, but it reduces data quality. We will actually see some examples of data that is not optimal. Other possibilities, there are commercial services, and I think Uni Göttingen also has some subscriptions to some of them. I don't know exactly, maybe you can help me. Have you ever encountered some commercial services via the, library interface or something? Very big ones, Elsevier Scopus. If you know a little bit about Elsevier, they are more profitable than the mafia. They have a profit margin that is only rivaled by drug trafficking, I would say. So yeah, not the nicest company, I would say. I should actually be aware. I'm recording this. Okay. Anyway, my personal opinion. It's a very commercial provider of scientific information, not just publication information. They are publishers, so they also publish papers. And as a publisher and a really big provider of such services and collections, of course, they have very good data because they have the manpower behind it and they do a lot of those things, either correct manually, or they collect it directly from the authors, let's say. So when I publish a paper with Elsevier, as an author, I need to provide to them very good data about the metadata of my paper and so on. So that makes their data cleaner than, let's say, those of these free services. Same for Web of Science, also a commercial service. I think they are not a publisher, they are more an aggregator, let's say, but also they involve more effort into data cleaning, so their data is better. They also include some additional features like quality rankings of venues and so on, so you get a better idea of what is actually a paper you should check out because it might be published at a very good venue. Of course, everybody knows, Nature and Science, but maybe you don't know the top conferences or journals in the field you're currently researching. They help you with this. The downside, of course, is they require a subscription, and you would need to check. Typically, they're quite expensive, so you would need to check whether the university actually has an access to it. Okay. So, very important, of course, as with every search, finding the right keywords is crucial to finding the results that you want. How can you come up with good keywords? What would be, if you, imagine, let's be practical. What is your, or do you already have a topic for your thesis?
Maybe, I think, maybe the recommendation algorithm.
Okay, for what kind of items or recommendation of what, or?
For specific items, I haven't got it right now, but just put it on the platform and based on some algorithm and recommend it to the customers.
So, but you were talking about physical items like Amazon, like a shop, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you search for related literature on that?
I think I'll just type recommendation algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe it will pop up
I would say a lot of content will pop up. Yeah. How would you how could you think you could filter it down or bring it down to the papers that you're most interested in?
And then maybe add some B2C platform.
Okay.
And then also some more specific details.
Yeah. So keywords, of course. I think you mentioned indirectly mentioned some of the approaches that you can follow to actually find the keywords. You try to read some of the papers that just pop up, yeah, for relevant keywords, maybe, you know. I think why this is a good strategy is if you're very new to a field, you sometimes just don't know the specific vocabulary terminology that is used, you know, within this subfield of research. So it's a very good idea to also maybe just read the abstracts of some papers that, you know, you get recommended or get retrieved when you type in the broad keywords to actually get an idea of what is maybe the more specific terminology to get down to this part of the research that I'm actually interested in. Here comes in something that I misunderstood you about citations. Of course, also check cited papers, yeah, because terminology, so if you got your first results, check which papers they cite, because terminology sometimes changes over time. Yeah, so from, I don't know, if you take machine learning, neural networks, and so on, the terminology shifts quite a bit. Yeah, and you might still be interested in some seminal papers that are older. Yeah, so in order to find them, it's a very good idea to also get an idea of how the terminology may have developed over the years to find these seminal papers that can be, I mean, for deep learning, some of the seminal papers are in the 60s, yeah, so quite a way back. Not saying you all have to cite papers from the 60s in your thesis, but, you know, it might be. Synonyms are, of course, a good idea, yeah, to not every author uses the same terms to describe things. I think something that not that many people use, but that are possible for quite many search engines, and Google Scholar is one of them, is search operators. So I think we are not that used to it anymore. The first search engines was much more common to use, you know, search operators like AND or approximate and so on. We were kind of comfortable that Google or other search engines do the work for us, so we don't really need to use it that much anymore. But for scientific papers, and especially if you have a lot of results, it can actually make sense to, you know, use your knowledge that you already have, put it into queries in terms of query operators, search operators, to filter down better than maybe Google Scholar or other search engines can do it without having, you know, your prior knowledge already. So yeah, check them out. They work, and I think especially useful are these exact phrase operators. So searching exactly this and nothing else. So you want this keyword to be in, and maybe combine it with even, you know, an and combine several of these very specific keywords. That is, I think, a good strategy if you have really a lot of results, but you have a very specific field in mind that you want to actually search literature for. Another really cool thing about citations is citations, as you see them on Google Scholar, so how many times people cite it, not in the terms of exporting the citation, but how many people cited another, or how many papers cited another paper, is because you can understand them as a quality signal. Yeah? Because other authors found this paper good, relevant, whatever, and so typically this is a very good indicator that it might be relevant for you too. So a very highly cited paper is typically, not all the times, but typically a paper you want to look at maybe first. And actually that is a very, very important heuristic of Google Scholar. So Google Scholar, first and foremost, ranks by citation counts. So of course keywords need to match, but within the keyword matches, the first criterion that Google Scholar uses is the number of citations. The more citations you get, the higher you are ranked in Google Scholar. So they apparently also think this is a very good, there are many critics about citation counts because you can sort of manipulate them, but still it's the best we have, I have to say. Yeah, so that's why they use it. Of course, you very often also have these filters like by year to find the most recent papers and so on. I think I don't need to explain those to you. Okay, then we have the papers that we want to look at. Next problem, I think that everybody of you has probably encountered at least once or twice. Not every paper you have a full text. Yeah, so you sometimes find the entry in Google Scholar, but you don't have the PDF yet. Where can you get the PDF from? Good. Don't say that for the recording, but yeah, it's a possibility. Everybody knows what this is? Yeah, okay, good. Let's start with the easiest case. Sometimes these search engines, of course, find a PDF for it. More and more authors, universities, and so on make their publications also available. Then, if you're lucky, you just have the PDF right there. If not, yes, you can still check the official publishers. Very often, universities have deals with at least some of them, with sub-collections of them. For example, I think IEEE, the University of Göttingen, as far as I can tell from my field, like computer science has pretty comprehensive access, so you get pretty much everything. ACM, most of it, I would say. Springerlink, I'm not so sure, not that great, I think, in my experience, at least from the University of Göttingen network. If you have friends at other universities, it's sometimes worth asking, hey, can you check whether your university library has access to this paper? I do this a lot also with colleagues at other universities, and they do it with me. It's like, I don't have access, do you have access? No, I also don't have access. Maybe there's the Sci-Hub option. Okay, so very good. Everybody heard of arXiv? Yeah, good. I don't need to explain that. Of course, preprint repository is also a very good source of full text directly deposited by the authors. What would you say might be or can be an issue with preprint archives, since you all know them? Good. Pretty much the same comment. They are not peer-reviewed. They might contain errors. Yes, that is sometimes not the final version, not the latest version. Yeah. So if I decide today I have a great idea, it's the greatest idea ever, and I want to publish about it, I put it on arXiv. Nobody checked whether it's the greatest idea ever. Yeah. So I can publish whatever I want there. Not saying that authors do that, but it's possible. So you need to be a bit wary of the quality. Ideally, the paper is later published. I mean, that's the idea of a preprint archive in some quality assured venue. Then the authors have the option of making this visible in their archive entry. Not always they do it. So yeah, make sure that the quality is okay. Other very large, not just archives of preprints, but of openly available full text in general, are Zenodo. Also is particularly strong for data, not just papers, also papers, but also data. And for papers specifically, coral.ac.uk. Has somebody seen this open access repository? They have a very, very cool collection, I have to say. They do a lot of crawling, specifically for the full texts. Of course, they also have metadata, but they really focus on the full text. They want to get their hands on as many full text as they can. The Facebook of researchers, of course. We are vanity peoples. We want our hard work to be read, so we put it on social networks for researchers like ResearchGate, academia.edu. Very often you can also find people there, of course, and just ask, hey, can you send me a copy of your paper? Do that. Authors are happy to do it because this is also legal. So even very, very often these subscription-based journals that you're not allowed to share just on the internet, you are allowed to share a one-on-one, a personal copy. So if I have a journal that is subscription-based, a journal article that is behind the paywall, as an author, I'm still allowed to provide you a copy free of charge. That's fine. So it's really a good idea to write to the authors and say, hey, sorry, my institution doesn't have access. I would really love your, and I would say 95% of the times they will send you a copy. Sometimes you have the problem that not all author emails are still valid. That can be tricky, but if you actually get in touch with an author, I have no case where they said no, I can't give you one.
Only within a timeline can be.
Yeah, I mean, these rules are very hard to navigate. I don't know them by heart, to be honest. I don't check them too carefully. I just give you a copy. Yeah, you have to actually read the fine print of every publisher, what is allowed when, and so on. I would say your chances are pretty good that you get a copy. And also, the Alliance of German Universities just reached a new deal with Elsevier. I don't know if you followed this process a little bit. It's been going on for 3 years or so that German institutions were completely cut off from Elsevier because, as I said, they are more profitable than the truck trafficking. And Germany did, in my opinion, the right thing and said, we're no longer supporting this. We want better conditions. Elsevier said, no. we are like the big guy here, and we don't care. And they fought for 3 years, where most German universities had no longer access to Elsevier articles. But I think a couple of weeks back, they reached an agreement. And now they get access again and also get better conditions, and also better conditions for open access publishing. So the access to Elsevier should get better now. Of course, also universities, like, what is it called in Göttingen? I forgot. Huh? Yeah, they have open access repositories typically where, employees, members of the university can publish, for example, their thesis in, but also if they are allowed, copies of their articles and conference papers in. Okay, so let's say we have the engine that we want to use. We have an idea of what to search for. How can we go deeper and find really what we are looking for? I mean, a very good idea is authors don't switch research fields too often. Check what else they have published. Maybe they have published something else that is relevant to your search, to your topic. Oh, I think the power is not working. That's not good. Yeah, it's not. Damn it. Why not? Okay. You will get a serious problem in 2 seconds. Okay, let's see. Good. Okay. Crisis averted. Same thing, same idea. Also check the venue. Of course, you have conferences specializing in certain areas. You have journals in certain areas. It's good to just browse around. Do they have something else, or search specifically for this venue? Have they something else that is relevant to my inquiry? Be a bit aware. There is a thing called predatory journals. Have you heard about this term? Predatory journals? Predatory journals, just like, so there's journals, predatory journals, and there's Disneyland conferences. That's what we call them. So these are just not quality-focused venues, but venues that allow authors who apparently don't get into quality venues to publish because they need to. As a PhD student, for example, you don't get your PhD in most fields if you haven't published. As a researcher, you can't really advance your career if you haven't published enough. So, where there's a demand, there's typically also a supply, and some journals and conferences recognize this demand and provided the supply by just allowing authors to publish pretty much anything and make it look like an article or a quality conference contribution. So there are websites like the Beals list that try to discover or try to make those not so good venues transparent. Be sure that you don't fall for one of those. We already said, check also cited papers. This also goes for finding, more that is not just for finding the terms to search, but also for papers that might be relevant, of course, particularly those that a lot of papers cite. Yeah? So these approaches sort of complement each other. Yeah, I already mentioned that. Of course, the number of citations is a very good quality signal. Okay, any questions on that so far? No? I think all of you have cited, so this will be a quick sort of component of the work or of the course. Of course, there is, I think you should be aware that as a researcher, as a student particularly also, you need to cite, foreign ideas, foreign content, specifically because it's the right thing to do, but also because the university makes sure that you do, or at least sanctions you if you don't. Yeah, you all have heard of plagiarism. If not, well, then check what the University of Göttingen says about plagiarism. It's definitely not okay. So citing is the right thing to do, to acknowledge the author, help them with their research careers, let's say, because citations are very important to be discovered, to get published, and so on. But also, of course, to be on the safe side in terms of your actual exam, that your thesis is as well, to avoid plagiarism. How to cite, like specifically, how to highlight foreign content, foreign ideas, it very much depends. There are different styles, there are different rules. If your department, if your supervisor has a preference, use it. I'm just going to present a approach that I personally use because I find it very intuitive and very easy to remember if there is no, if nobody tells you how to do it otherwise. And of course, you need to distinguish between direct quotes and indirect quotes. So direct quotes where you really take text out of another source. Is this a rule of thumb that with shorter quotes, let's say roughly 40 words, you put them in quotation marks? Otherwise, because it becomes a paragraph more or less, you don't necessarily have to use quotation marks, but you need to make them visually different from the rest of the text. Yeah? So, for example, like indent them, or I don't know, put a bar. Be creative, but typically you don't use quotation marks there anymore. Italic, that's all fine. Why I find this approach that I'm telling you quite easy to remember is because it just uses square brackets for everything. Yeah, pretty much. So you only need to remember like one convention for markup. So I use square brackets to mark additions or alterations. Yeah, so if you alter a literal quote and still mark it as a literal quote, you need to add that. For example, if you make omissions, then you add 3 dots. In this case, in square brackets. It's also possible with other styles to add it in round brackets and so on. But you should mark any changes you make to literal quotes. I think that is clear. Have you seen this? SIC, sick? Yeah, what does it mean?
I don't know the literal translation.
Me neither, but what does it represent?
Yeah, it means if there is like a grammatical error or like,
yeah.
Like an error in
yeah.
the text.
It means I was smarter than the author because they made a mistake and I found it. But even though I discovered it, I still know that this is a literal quote and I quote it as it was given in the original source. It's some Latin, I also can't remember what it is. Yeah. Sometimes you have the problem that in your literal quote you have another quote. Yeah. So it's like with programming when you have these problems with double quotations. Typically you switch between double quotes, single quotes, and so on. So if the original text uses double quotes, maybe you use single quotes and the other way around. Literal quotes, and this is something that I see very often that is not adhered to, is literal quotes require a page number, actually, in most style manuals. So if you quote literally from somewhere, and it's not a one-pager, let's say a one-page document where you get the quote from, put the page number there where the quote can be found. Okay, quick example, unaltered quote. Yeah, so short one, we put it into quotes, quotation marks, and yeah, we put the page number. So not just the source, but the page number. If we alter something, we mark these alterations. As I said, in my easy scheme here, we always use square brackets for everything, so for alterations, but also for omissions, and also for marking errors. That's why I find it so intuitive, because you just do the same, you just use the same mark to as a markup tool. Yeah.
You added CPA at the beginning of the sentence, but so could it be outside of the citation?
Sorry?
The CPA in
Yeah.
addition.
Yeah.
Could that be outside the citation and then it's not an addition because it's at the beginning? So
Yeah, also possible in this case. Yeah, also possible. But then it's actually, yeah, probably we should have also added dots here, because typically this then means I only took a part of the sentence. So I should probably also added dots here. Okay. Long direct quotes, as I said, just put them apart visually and mark omissions, changes, and so on in the same way. Yeah, I think you know what indirect quotes are. If you just, paraphrase a thought or just represent the thought, of course, then you can do something like this. What I would really, really recommend and ask you to do is, because it's you see that even from very established authors, but it's just bad style. Don't do something like source 4 or source 3, blah, 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 said something. Just the reference marker and then use it as a sentence part. That's not good style. Yeah? Do it as in this example, like Meuschke et al., for example, or authors, blah, blah, pointed out, or whatever. Yeah? But do not use one found, I don't know, yeah, result. It's just not good style. Better this way. Or say the authors or something, but make it a complete sentence. It's terrible to read such one found blah. Yeah. I think that that is all clear to you. Yeah. So many researchers, different. So not in this case, it would be particularly hard to read if you say, okay, 1, 5, 13, and 25 characterize academic plagiarism as. It's just I don't know. Yeah, better do. Many researchers characterize something as this, and then list your references. Okay, code libraries, data sets, and so on. How do you cite them? Please don't say not at all. Yeah.
Data sets usually have an accommodating short paper you can cite.
Good. Yeah, that is the ideal case. Correct. Yeah. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think it's oftentimes it's referenced somewhere how you can cite like the
Yeah.
code or the
It becomes more common, yeah. So same comment as you did, right? It's if there is a paper you know that is relevant or that is even recommended by the authors to cite, that's of course the best. It makes it easy for you, and it's good for the authors because they know then, they want to get their citations for this paper. That's ideal. And if there is something like this, please do it. Otherwise, there is no real established rule or convention yet. So yeah, many just use footnotes. I do too. If there is nothing better, that's fine. It's not wrong. As you said, sometimes authors directly recommend you what to use. And okay, almost done. Sometimes I didn't put this into the slides, but GitHub specifically introduced a cool new feature where you can actually, even without having a paper, generate a citation for a data set or for a code library. Sometimes authors use that. So particularly if you use, I don't know, software from GitHub, for example, check whether the authors included this new feature from GitHub where you can say, okay, please cite, well, there is a citation, please use this.
Have you also maybe try to find the code in other works and see how other authors cited it?
Of course, if you're willing to make this effort, sure, the authors will appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, then any questions on this short component of the course? Yeah.
should we include a date for the code library or the version?
It's very good if you do that. Yeah. It also depends a little bit on your citation style. Many styles just demand it. In general, it's a very good idea. Yeah. Other questions? If not, then I would say let's take a 5-minute break, or 5 minutes, okay? Still fresh, and then we keep going, okay?